Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show.
Hello, hello. We are so happy you're here with us today.
Alice, today we're diving into a fascinating story about two sisters. The title of our reading passage is simply The Davies Sisters.
The Davies Sisters. Just from the title, I'm already wondering, are they famous for something? Like, were they explorers? Or maybe scientists? Or perhaps they were known for their fashion sense?
Good guesses. The name Davies sounds quite Welsh to me, so maybe they're from Wales. And sisters often have shared interests, but sometimes very different ones. I wonder if they collected something or perhaps achieved something together.
I love that. Let's find out what made these sisters so special.
Exactly. Today, we'll read their story in Part 1. Then in Part 2, we'll quickly review the 8 essential reading skills we've been learning. In Part 3, we'll do a quick challenge. And in Part 4, we'll put those skills to work with some practice questions based on the passage.
Sisters, skills, and practice. Sounds like a plan.
Let's begin. Okay, welcome to Part 1. This is our reading passage for today, titled The Davies Sisters.
No need to worry about anything yet. We're just going to listen and get the general idea.
I will read each paragraph slowly. After each one, Alice will give you the main idea in simple English at a B1 or B2 level.
Think of it like a story being told, just for your ears. Ready? Let's read.
Gwendolyn, 1882 to 1951, and Margaret, 1884 to 1963, were the granddaughters of David Davies, a Welshman who amassed a fortune in the shipping and mining industries. Their religious upbringing in rural Wales gave them a deep sense of social responsibility, and they chose to use their inheritance for cultural and philanthropic purposes.
Okay, so paragraph A introduces Gwendolyn and Margaret Davies. They were sisters from Wales, and their grandfather was very rich from shipping and mining. Because of how they grew up, they felt it was important to use their money to help others and support culture, like art. Philanthropic means helping people, often by giving money to good causes.
A key phrase here is amassed a fortune. To amass means to collect a large amount of something, especially money. So their grandfather amassed a fortune means he became very, very rich.
Amassed a fortune. Very rich. Say it with me. Amassed a fortune. It's interesting how their upbringing, like their childhood, really shaped what they did with their money. It makes you think about how our own past can guide our choices, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Let's continue with their story. Their London school focused on cultural rather than academic study, and they traveled extensively with their governess, Jane Blaker, visiting art galleries and making extensive notes on the collections there.
So, paragraph B tells us more about their education. Their school in London taught them a lot about culture, like art and music, not just regular school subjects. They also traveled a lot with their teacher, their governess, and they visited many art galleries, writing down lots of notes about what they saw.
Governess is a good word here. A governess was a woman who was employed to teach and train the children in a private household. It's an older term you might see in historical texts.
So basically, a private teacher who also traveled the world with them. Sounds like a pretty cool job.
So far, we know the Davies sisters were wealthy, wanted to help others, and had an education that focused on culture and art. They were clearly being prepared for something special. The sisters began to make regular art purchases from 1908, which roughly coincided with the dates of their inheritance. While it was long assumed that these men were largely responsible for the nature of the sisters' collection, it has recently been accepted that Gwendolyn and Margaret retained a far more active role in the process.
This paragraph tells us they started buying art around the time they got their money. For a long time, people thought that some men, like art dealers, made all the decisions for them. But actually, the sisters themselves were much more involved and made their own choices. They had a more active role.
Coincided with means happened at the same time as. So their art buying coincided with their inheritance. They started buying art when they got their money.
Quick question for you. Who was really in charge of choosing the art for their collection? The men or the sisters? The answer is the sisters had a far more active role. They were the ones making the decisions.
The sisters' journals reveal their preference for old master paintings. Quite simply, high-quality old masterworks were, if not beyond their means, then beyond what they were willing to pay for them. Instead, their early purchases were of the fashionable, safe variety and included, for example, paintings by the French artist Jean-Baptiste Camille Corot.
So their journals, like diaries, showed they really liked old master paintings, which are very old, famous works. But these paintings were super expensive, even for them. So they bought more common and popular paintings at first, like those by the French artist Corot.
Preference means what you like more. So they had a preference for old master paintings means they liked those paintings the most. However, it was only a few years before their collecting took a new direction and they turned to the work of the French Impressionists. Their first purchases of Impressionist art, made in October 1912, were scenes of Venice by the French artist Claude Monet.
However, tells us things changed. They stopped buying the safe paintings and started buying French Impressionist art, which was a new style then. Their very first Impressionist paintings were scenes of Venice by Monet.
The First World War, 1914-1918, played a part in the development of the sisters' collection. Later in the conflict, both sisters decided to volunteer at a canteen for troops at Troyes in northern France.
This paragraph tells us the First World War affected their art collecting. During the war, both sisters decided to volunteer, to work for free, at a canteen in France. A canteen is like a simple restaurant or cafe where they served food to soldiers.
Conflict is another word for a war or a serious disagreement. So, later in the conflict means later in the war. Yet, on one of numerous trips to nearby Paris, she visited the Bernheim-Jean Gallery. Here, she acquired two works by Cézanne, Provençal Landscape and the François Zola Dam. The paintings were shipped directly to Bath, England, where they became the first works by Cézanne to go on display in a public gallery in Britain.
Even while working during the war, Gwendolen still visited art galleries. She bought two paintings by Cézanne, another famous artist. These paintings were sent to England and were the first Cézanne works shown in a public art gallery there. Acquired means bought or obtained.
Commentators have often described the sisters as unlikely pioneer collectors. Much is made of their isolation in rural Wales and the fact that they didn't make friends with artists or gallery owners. Yet they didn't feel obliged to follow fashionable tastes and were free to pursue their own preferences.
Paragraph H says that many people thought the sisters were unlikely art collectors. This means they weren't typical. They lived far away in Wales and didn't hang out with artists, but this was actually a good thing. It meant they didn't have to follow popular trends and could just buy what they truly liked.
Pioneer means one of the first people to do something. So pioneer collectors means they were among the first to collect certain types of art. By the early 1920s, Gwendolen felt increasingly uncomfortable buying artworks when faced with the poverty and social upheaval created by the First World War. Margaret also stopped collecting around this time, but started again in the 1930s, acquiring, on a relatively small scale, work by contemporary British artists.
This paragraph tells us that after the war, Gwendolen felt bad buying expensive art because there was so much poverty, so she mostly stopped collecting and focused on helping people. Margaret also stopped for a while, but then started again later, buying art from British artists. Social upheaval means big, difficult changes in society.
The Gwendolen and Margaret Davies collection, donated in 1951 and 1963 respectively to the National Museum Wales, contains major examples of work by leading French Impressionists. In collecting paintings that they loved, the sisters created a lasting and meaningful cultural legacy for the people of Wales and beyond.
The last paragraph tells us the final outcome. The sisters gave their amazing art collection to the National Museum Wales. Because they collected art they loved, they left a wonderful, lasting cultural legacy, something important that continues to benefit people for a very long time.
Okay, that is the full passage, 10 paragraphs, but we kept it concise. Let's quickly remember the structure in case your mind wandered anywhere along the way.
Paragraph A, introducing the sisters, their wealth, and their values.
Paragraph B, their cultural education.
Paragraph C, they started collecting and made their own choices.
Paragraph D, they liked old masters, but they were too expensive, so they bought popular art first.
Paragraph E, they changed to Impressionist art.
Paragraph F, the First World War and their volunteering.
Paragraph G, Gwendolyn bought Cezanne paintings during the war.
Paragraph H, they were unlikely collectors, free to follow their own tastes.
Paragraph I, Gwendolyn stopped collecting after the war, Margaret restarted later.
Paragraph J, their collection was donated and became a lasting legacy.
So, that was our reading passage. How did you feel? Did you catch most of it?
If you didn't catch everything, that is completely normal. The goal was just to get the general shape of each paragraph, the main points.
From wealthy sisters to art collectors with a social conscience. If you remember that general story, you've already done something very useful.
And now we are going to quickly review the 8 skills that help you read any passage like this faster and more confidently. Let's go to part 2. Welcome to part 2. This is where we quickly review our 8 reading skills.
8 skills you can use in your next IELTS exam, or even in your everyday English reading. Are you ready?
Let's begin with skill 1.
Okay, skill number 1, David?
Skill number 1, skim the whole passage first before you read carefully.
Skim? You mean read it fast?
Yes, very fast. Don't stop for difficult words. Just get the general idea of each paragraph.
So for our Davies Sisters passage, it was like introduction, education, early collecting, impressionists, war, legacy.
Exactly. And once you know that general flow, finding answers becomes much faster.
That makes a lot of sense. I always used to read the whole thing first. No more.
Here is a tip. When you skim, only read the first sentence of each paragraph. That sentence usually tells you what the paragraph is about.
Say this with me. Skim first.
Skill number 2, always read the questions first before you scan for answers.
Wait, isn't that obvious? I mean, who wouldn't?
You'd think so, but many students start reading the passage in detail before they even know what they're looking for.
Ah, so they waste time reading things they don't need.
Exactly. If a question asks about their philanthropic purposes, you already know which words to look for and which paragraph to focus on.
So the question guides the reading, not the other way around.
Perfectly said. The question is your map. Read the map before you start walking.
The question is your map. Say it with me. The question is your map. Okay, skill 3.
Scan for keywords. Don't read every word. Let your eyes jump to the important ones.
What counts as a keyword?
Names, numbers, dates, and unusual words. For example, in our passage, Gwendolyn, Margaret, 1908, Cezanne.
So if a question asks about specific dates, I just scan for the numbers?
Exactly. Your eyes move down the page quickly, like a camera, looking for the important things.
Like a camera. My eyes are a camera. I love that.
Numbers and dates are always easy to spot. If a question mentions 1912, your eyes will find it very quickly.
All right, quick pit stop. So far, we've got skim first, questions are your map, and now eyes like a camera for keywords. 3 down, 5 to go. I feel like I'm already getting faster.
Skill 4 is a really useful one. Watch for paraphrasing.
What do you mean by paraphrasing?
The question will almost never use the exact same words as the passage. It will use synonyms instead.
Can you give me an example from our Davies Sisters passage?
Sure. The passage says their grandfather amassed a fortune. A question might say his wealth came from.
Oh, amassed a fortune means wealth came from. Same meaning, different words.
Exactly. Same meaning, different words.
That sounds hard. Sometimes I just want the exact words.
It gets easier with practice, honestly. The skill is simply don't look for the same words, look for the same meaning.
Say that again, David. I want to remember it.
Don't look for the same words, look for the same meaning.
Don't look for the same words, look for the same meaning. Say it with me. Skill 5.
Find the topic sentence. Usually the first sentence of a paragraph tells you what the whole paragraph is about.
So in paragraph I, the first sentence says, by the early 1920s, Gwendolyn felt increasingly uncomfortable buying artworks when faced with the poverty and social upheaval created by the First World War.
Right. So immediately you know this paragraph is about Gwendolyn's changing feelings about collecting art due to the war.
So I don't need to read the whole paragraph carefully unless the question is about Gwendolyn's later collecting habits.
Exactly right. The topic sentence is like a sign on a door. It tells you what is inside before you open the door.
Let's practice. Listen to this first sentence. What is the paragraph about?
The sisters began to make regular art purchases from 1908, which roughly coincided with the dates of their inheritance.
The paragraph is about when they started buying art. That's paragraph C. Did you get it right?
Skill 6 is the one that trips learners up the most, but it's really just a small logic puzzle. True, false, not given questions.
Oh no, I always get confused with not given. It's like a secret third option that tricks me.
Everyone does it first. Here is the key difference. True means the passage says the same thing as the statement. False means the passage says the opposite. Not given means the passage simply does not mention it at all.
So not given does not mean false. It just means the passage is silent. No information.
Exactly. The passage is silent. Say it with me. The passage is silent. And here's a little trick this question type likes to play. Sometimes the statement says all or always, but the passage only talks about some. That's usually a false. The statement went too far.
Ooh, so watch out for words like all, every, always, never. Good tip.
Okay, let me test you. Here is a statement. Gwendolyn and Margaret Davies were the only wealthy women in Britain.
The passage says they were the wealthiest unmarried women, but it doesn't say they were the only wealthy women, so that is not given. The passage is silent on whether other women were also wealthy.
Correct. Now try this one. The Davies sisters bought French Impressionist art at a time when it was very popular.
The passage says they were unlikely pioneer collectors and that this art was routinely ignored, so the statement is the opposite of the passage. So the answer is false.
Perfect. You just used skill 6 correctly.
Skill 7?
Manage your time. If one question is taking too long, skip it and come back later.
But isn't it bad to leave a question unanswered? I feel like I have to get every single one.
It's worse to spend 5 minutes on one hard question and lose time for 5 easy ones.
Oh, so one hard question can cost you many easy points? That's a trap.
Exactly. Always guess something, mark it, and move on. You can come back at the end if you have time.
A good rule of thumb, roughly 1.5 minutes per question. If you're still stuck after that, move on and come back later.
And our last skill, skill 8, guess unknown words from context. You will never know every word, and that is completely normal.
Oh, that is so good to hear. Sometimes I just get stuck on one word and freeze.
For example, imagine you don't know the word philanthropic in our passage, but the sentence says they chose to use their inheritance for cultural and philanthropic purposes because of their deep sense of social responsibility.
So I can guess philanthropic must be something good related to helping society or others because of social responsibility. I don't need the exact definition. I just need enough to answer the question.
Exactly. Context is the words around the unknown word. Use those words as clues.
Say this with me. Use context clues.
And that is skill 8, and all 8 skills done.
Wow, 8 skills. That was a lot, but I feel much more confident now.
You should. These are real practical skills that every good IELTS reader uses.
And the important thing is, these skills work together. Skim, read the questions, scan for keywords, watch for paraphrasing, topic sentence, true, false, not given, time management, context clues. They are a team.
All 8 working together. Let's go review them quickly.
Before we move on to part 3, David, where can students practice these reading logic skills?
Definitely check out IELTSlogic.com. It offers full reading passage breakdowns, listening practice, and speaking logic chain training.
That's awesome! Built by system architects to sharpen your analytical thinking. Visit IELTSlogic.com today.
Welcome to part 3. Quick review. No pressure, just a fun recap. I'm going to quiz you, Alice. Let's see how many of the 8 skills you remember.
Oh, a quiz. Okay, I'm ready. I think I got them all this time.
All right, Alice. Skill 1. What's the very first thing we should do with a passage?
Read every single word super slowly?
Ha, no, that's the opposite. Skim first, get the big picture.
Right. Skim first. I knew that.
Okay. What about skill 4? That's the one about not looking for the exact same words.
Oh, that's paraphrasing. Look for the same meaning, not the same words.
Excellent. And skill 6, the tricky one, true, false, or...
Not given. The passage is silent.
You got it. And how about skill 8, our last one? What do we do with unknown words?
Use context clues. Guess from the words around them.
Fantastic. You actually remembered almost all of them, even with my trick question.
Now, if you feel like it, try saying all 8 out loud yourself. No pressure. Even remembering 4 or 5 is great. However you did, that is genuine progress. 8 skills reviewed, quickly and clearly.
Remember, you don't need to memorize the names. You need to do them. Skills are actions, not words.
Alice, a quick reminder for our listeners before we head into part 4.
Yes, for complete reading sentence analysis, synonym replacements, and solution pathways, head over to IELTSlogic.com.
It's designed by IELTS experts to help you build clear logic. Check out IELTSlogic.com and boost your score.
Now, the most important part, putting the skills into action. Let's go to part 4. Welcome to part 4, practice time. We are going to use our passage about the Davies Sisters. Remember, the one about their wealth, their art collecting journey, and their legacy, and we will ask you real exam-style questions.
Try to answer before we give you the answer if you can. Say it out loud if you like. No pressure though, just listening carefully works too.
After each question, we pause. Then we go back to the passage, look at the exact line, and explain the answer. Question 1. Complete the notes. Their grandfather's wealth came from and transportation businesses. What is the missing word?
Let's look back at paragraph A. It says David Davies amassed a fortune in the shipping and mining industries. So, his wealth came from mining and transportation businesses. The missing word is mining. This was a keyword scan, pure and simple. Question 2. Complete the notes. There was designed to give them an interest in activities such as collecting art. What is the missing word?
For this one, let's go to paragraph B. It states, their London school focused on cultural rather than academic study. The question paraphrases London school and cultural study as their education. So the missing word is education.
Question 3. Complete the notes. They took lengthy about the things they saw in art galleries. What is the missing word?
This is still in paragraph B. It clearly says they were making extensive notes on the collections there. So the missing word is notes, another direct keyword match.
Question 4. Complete the notes. There showed they liked old master paintings, but they were expensive to buy. What is the missing word?
Let's find this in paragraph D. The passage reads, the sisters' journals reveal their preference for old master paintings. The word we need is journals.
Question 5. Complete the notes. The first Impressionist paintings they bought showed places in what?
This is in paragraph E. It says, their first purchases of Impressionist art were scenes of Venice by the French artist Claude Monet, so the paintings showed places in Venice.
Question 6. Complete the notes. They worked in a for soldiers in France during the First World War. What is the missing word?
Let's go to paragraph F. It mentions that both sisters decided to volunteer at a canteen for troops at Troy in northern France. So the missing word is canteen.
Question 7. Complete the notes. They were not considered typical collectors. They lived in isolation in the countryside and did not have any who were artists. What is found in paragraph H? It states, much is made of their isolation in rural Wales and the fact that they didn't make friends with artists or gallery owners. So they didn't have any friends who were artists.
Okay, now we move to true, false, not given questions. Statement 8. The Davies sisters' childhood influenced the way they decided to use their wealth. Is this true, false, or not given?
Let's check paragraph A. It says, their religious upbringing in rural Wales gave them a deep sense of social responsibility, and they chose to use their inheritance for cultural and philanthropic purposes. This directly supports the idea that their childhood or upbringing influenced their choices. So the answer is true. This is a good example of paraphrasing.
Statement 9. The Jean-Baptiste Camille Corot paintings in the Davies sisters collection were purchased from a gallery in France.
Look at paragraph D. It mentions Corot's paintings as part of their early purchases of the fashionable, safe variety. However, the passage does not mention where these paintings were purchased from. It only says Corot was a French artist, so the answer is not given. Statement 10. Hugh Blaker opposed the Davies sisters' decision to buy art by French Impressionists. Is this true, false, or not given?
Let's go to paragraph E. It says, we know that Hugh Blaker, as a champion of contemporary French art, had a hand in the decision. If he had a hand in the decision and was a champion of the art, he clearly supported it, not opposed it. Therefore, the statement is the opposite of the information given. The answer is false.
Statement 11. The exhibition of Cézanne paintings at the Bath Gallery was very popular with the public. Is this true, false, or not given? In paragraph G, it states that Gwendolen's Cézanne paintings became the first works by Cézanne to go on display in a public gallery in Britain. This confirms they were displayed, but the passage does not mention anything about how popular they were with the public, so the answer is not given. Statement 12. The impact of the First World War encouraged Gwendolen to reconsider her interest in collecting art. Is this true, false, or not given?
For this, look at paragraph I. It clearly says, by the early 1920s, Gwendolen felt increasingly uncomfortable buying artworks when faced with the poverty and social upheaval created by the First World War. Her philanthropic pursuits then became focused almost exclusively on social causes. This shows the war made her change her mind about collecting art, so the answer is true. This is another example of paraphrasing.
And finally, Statement 13. The Davies sisters bought French Impressionist art during a period when very few people were doing so. Is this true, false, or not given?
Let's look at paragraph J, the very last one. It says, the sisters collected French Impressionist paintings at a time when such art was routinely ignored by individuals and institutions alike. Routinely ignored means very few people were doing so. So this statement is directly supported by the passage. The answer is true.
Okay, we just went through all 13 questions. David, let me ask, what skills did we actually use today?
Great question. Let's see. First, keyword scanning was huge for those fill-in-the-blank questions.
We found mining, notes, journals, Venice, and canteen just by spotting specific words.
Right, like grandfather's wealth leading us to mining industries.
Then, paraphrasing. That was key for the true-false questions. For example, childhood influenced became religious upbringing gave them a deep sense of social responsibility. Or routinely ignored became very few people were doing so.
And don't forget not given. We saw that when information wasn't there, like where they bought the Corot paintings or how popular the Cézanne exhibition was, the passage was silent.
Absolutely. And we used the topic sentence idea to quickly find the right paragraph for each question.
So if you take one thing from today, it's this. The answer is almost never about finding the exact same word. It's about finding the same idea in different words. That's the power of paraphrasing.
Well said. Okay, let's move on to our closing. So that is it for today. The fascinating story of the Davies sisters and a good workout for our reading skills.
Let's say our key takeaway one more time together. Before we go, say this with me. I have the right strategy.
I have the right strategy.
I have the right strategy.
Say it one more time if you like, because it's true.
Oh, before we go, one last fun fact about the Davies sisters. Even though they were unlikely collectors, living far from the art world, their collection is now considered one of the most important in the UK. It truly shaped what people in Wales could see and learn about modern art.
What an amazing legacy. Until next time, keep reading, keep practicing, and trust the process.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.